Hello and welcome to the Graeyzone. My name is Silas.
My name is Raouf.
My name's Christian.
My name's Rob.
And today we ask the question, are phones a necessity? I mean, I would like to say that today's day and age, I think that phones are much more of a necessity than in previous days, but...
You know what I'm going to say?
Let's open it up. What do you want to say,
I'm going to say
Christian?
that phones have been a necessity for being a normal member of society for at least 45 years.
45 years. What is your justification for that?
My justification for that is that about 45 years ago, so we would say about 1975, right?
Sure.
1975, if you were born at the turn of the century without a telephone, you would be 75 years old, meaning the society still somewhat catered to people that may not have a telephone. Somewhat. Like, I'm going to say it's probably further back than 1975, but by the time you hit 1975, if you are 30 years old, you were born in 1945 and telephones have been a thing for a very long time, meaning that you were born into it, you have been raised with them, and everybody is expected to have one. Now, definitely not the modern smartphone.
Right.
But still, society at that time became, you need to have a phone in your office. You're not using telegrams anymore. You're not using personal messages anymore. You need to have a phone in your home.
Right.
Somebody needs to be able to contact you. They use your phone or your party line at that time. So
yeah, that's
I
right.
think 1975 is really where the transition, because before that you still
could get away with.
You could still probably get away with it, but that I put it 5 years before the 80s.
Right. Well, the 80s took
and the
off.
80s are like, I mean, you start actually getting cell phones in the 80s.
Right.
And then definitely in the 90s, but by that point, by the 80s, everybody's like expected to start having like even more advanced phones and like answering machines and things like that.
That's
by
true.
the late 80s, early 90s.
So they've always been kind of a necessity in your eyes.
At least they've been a necessity for 45 years.
For as long as we've been alive.
Yes.
Yes.
And remember, everybody here was born in 1996.
5.
Oh, you're a 95.
I am a 95.
Well, then
yes.
you beat out everybody by 1 year, and that's important because the other three of us were literally born on the year that supposedly the internet took off.
Right.
So not only were phones, if you are using the internet, already an essential thing, but phone lines were what the internet first came through. So you had to be able to use the internet, you needed to have a phone.
Right. You had to come. It had to come through your. DSL baby.
With that, I think that phones now the modern smartphone, I don't think is 100% a necessity.
Ooh, that's going to be a hot topic we're going to discuss next then.
I don't think the smartphone is 100% a necessity because
Okay.
I think that if you have a regular telephone and a computer,
You can do just as
you
much.
can do just as much. Near just as much. There are things that you can't do.
You're missing a lot of the mobility.
You're missing the mobility, but you can operate. You can function.
You can function just barely.
I even think that if you don't own your own computer, if this is not in COVID times, that you can go to a library if you really wanted to just have a cell phone or a house line. But I really think that a cell phone is kind of essential for being a normal citizen.
Right.
You are going out of your way to act in a unique manner and not being like an average person if you do not have a cell phone.
Right. So, I mean, and people still do live without smartphones. They have the cell phones and then go to places to get their, internet usages.
But when we say is something essential, that means is something essential for your average citizen?
Right.
Is something essential for acting in a way that most people baseline act in society, because you can always do things without something, but it makes it very difficult and you have to jump through other hoops.
Of course. Well, let's ask the other two guys here. Oop.
I don't know about you guys, but in various job interviews I've been in recently, they will ask me, do you own a smartphone? I have been asked that multiple times. And I have to assume the point of that question was, can we reach you by phone? Can we reach you by email? Can we reach you by text? Can we fucking Skype you? Things of that nature. And when we ask, is it essential? I mean, you can run out into the fucking woods if you so desire. You won't die.
That's very true.
There's
But-
only a few actual essentials
Yes.
in the world.
But if we're talking about, let's say we're talking about, we could go to the library if I just have a normal phone and need a computer, right?
Right.
But I promise you, if I said, I just have a fucking Nokia phone and I go to the library for my computer needs, I would have been, I already was rejected for those jobs, but I would have been rejected immediately.
But I do have to comment that is for getting specific types of jobs, and we know people that don't have cars that we would consider having a car is essential.
Right.
But they are able to go to jobs and work
But you know how,
using
though?
public transportation.
how?
I think phone is more essential than a car is.
And I'm going to have to agree with Rob.
By
because,
actually kind of, maybe by a lot.
I
There's a lot of alternative modes of transportation, but some jobs in some businesses, even down to like working at Home Depot, will schedule you through a web thing.
You're right. But some jobs will say, if you do not have your own form of transportation, we will not hire you. There's a lot of jobs that do that.
Of course. But here's the thing.
There's actually quite a few jobs that will ask you, do you have a way to get here that's
Reliably.
reliably.
Right.
Yeah,
And-
there's a lot of jobs that will ask you if you have a cell phone.
Yes. Now, my point of that is I think essential, no. Highly valuable, yes.
I want to add to that because I think that, yes, I agree with you on the fact that they're not essential, but I think we're moving towards an age where the essential of today isn't going to be, in question. Years and years and years ago, kings didn't have running water,
Yes.
So in today's day, everyone's got running water, and I feel bad for Flint still because they're still SOL, but their running water is crap water, and that should be an essential thing: is clean, filtered water that's guaranteed, right?
As society moves forward, these things are only going to become more and more centralized. Let's think about it now. Apple and Samsung are releasing budget versions of smartphones. Not
Yes.
cell phones, smartphones.
And you can pick up a used smartphone too for pennies on the dollar.
And that will only heighten the expectation of various people that you should have a smartphone. These things only cost like $150 nowadays.
Before we get too far, I do want to clarify that the car versus cell phone essentialness definitely depends on where you live.
Of course.
Like some areas,
Well, New York, you don't need a car.
if you
New York City.
that's an
New York
extreme
City.
example, but if you live in like the boonies,
You need a car.
you
kinda
probably need a car over a cell phone
over a
because you don't even have
smartphone, for
a
sure.
cell phone tower up there. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but seriously, and that's why I brought that up, is because they are both situational of what you need.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is like, when I say essential, I mean what an average person can do feasibly without jumping through an incredible amount of hoops. I think that a regular cell phone is still serviceable in conjunction to a smartphone, unless we're going to break out a definition of what a smartphone is.
Well, a smartphone is touchscreen.
Nope.
No?
Smartphone
No.
is a phone that can browse the internet.
Okay, well then
Because
most
some phones can receive emails but can't browse the internet.
Do you consider having to go to the library or some other place that is not your own home a hoop
Yes.
that needs to be jumped through?
But
Yes.
I don't consider that. Well, remember, I said computer. You can have a computer at your home.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? If you have a computer at your home, that makes it so that you don't need to have a smartphone.
Let me give an example though of why. I mean,
The library was a further step.
right. The library is a further step, and even having a laptop is a step in a hoop itself. And my example is this: my previous job that I was working at had me sign into my email on my phone so that I can receive updates of what was happening on my phone, right? And so if I was out of work or not out of, if I were, not at work on the weekend or whatever, a holiday, and I needed to be, reached by one of my coworkers, they would send me an email. I would get the email, and then I would respond to the said email within a couple of minutes, not even. All right, and they would receive that email in return as fast as someone were to text message someone else.
That's absolutely fine. But do you think that your job is what is available to most people?
Amazon runs their entire scheduling software and work functions
That is
off
true.
of a cell phone.
That's-
And that is one of the biggest employers.
Yes, that's true. But does that mean that it isn't? What I'm getting at is...
Is that the substandard right now?
Yes, like...
I don't think it's the substandard
And-
yet, but I
and
think it's
if we're
moving
going to
towards
move
it.
beyond, I guess if we're going to move beyond the term essential, then I will agree. But if we're talking about basic essential like needs,
basic essential needs? No, absolutely
and
not.
basic essential
I don't-
like how to standardly operate, there are plenty of jobs that don't do that. There are plenty of people I know that don't have smartphones
Right.
that get by just fine. But as young people, this is the other thing. Right now, as young people who are looking to advance, we need smartphones.
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. And that's what I was
That's
saying earlier.
a very different capacity than a 60 or 70-year-old who might just be working at Target and is looking to retire.
Right.
But
Now, I've heard
Retire from
at
Target.
Myers, I've heard at Myers recently, they've started to push this like scheduling online. So it is changing as we speak, right?
it's been changing for a while because when I worked at Kroger, and that was
Years ago.
5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
They started 7 years ago. That's like iPhone 4. To give a time reference, they were pushing for people to schedule online, change schedules online. When I became like a department manager, all of the department manager meetings had to go to an email. You had to be able to access email on your phone. It was like
On your phone or was it an
on the
app?
go, on the
okay.
go. So
Right.
like if I'm out driving down 75 and I get an email, shouldn't email and drive, but I should be able to get that email. I can't have to go to the library because I can't sit at the library all day.
Make the call you need.
Just having a smartphone though too, that means one of the more minute questions is data essential?
Data is definitely essential.
Because you can have minutes on a smartphone and then go to sit in the McDonald's parking lot and access their Wi-Fi.
Until they kick you out, yes, you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you don't need to. You can do that for 3 minutes or whatever and
Yeah.
check your stuff. And McDonald's are everywhere.
I'm gonna go
So-
back to the what I
Sorry,
said earlier.
I-
No, you're good. You're good. I'm gonna go back to what I said earlier. Is that phones, like at the bare minimum, are not essential. Okay, you can get through life without having a smartphone that is connected to the internet, connected to all these different things. You can get by, albeit not the most comfortably or swiftly or efficiently.
You can get by without a house too.
You can get by without a house too. Exactly. It's the same exact thing, But the thing is that
But
as
it's very difficult to get by without any place of living.
Yeah.
yes,
But he just said it's uncomfortable and not swift, so is not having a house.
Yeah, I think the
Our
problem.
boy Alan.
I think we need to get past the word essential here because
Okay.
I feel that's not. It's not a super interesting conversation because the
technically
word
only
essential.
water and food are essential. And,
Yeah,
and
it's a
food's
very-
only essential.
No, but
one
remember, I defined it as something as, is it essential to be a base member of society?
No.
Earlier.
we're kind of stretching the idea of what's essential.
Yeah, the word essential is a very absolutist term.
Right. So
I think we need to.
what we should say is much more like required or even a necessity.
Can you go without a smartphone in 2020?
Yes, you
Yes.
can.
Yes.
I would be hard pressed to go without a cell phone.
More or less cell phone, yeah.
Okay,
Can you go without
that?
a phone, period?
No,
In 2020.
not to advance in society.
Here's
And really, that is the case for a smartphone. You can't advance in society, but you can stay standing in the same place.
Yeah, I think it would help to reframe it a little bit as instead of saying is it a What the
There you
fuck?
English.
Cut all that. Is it a necessity to have a phone? Is it essential? I feel the clear-cut answer is no. There are too many examples to argue against. How about we could reframe the conversation as, do you need a smartphone to be accepted by your peers and contemporaries?
No. So that's
wait,
different.
wait, wait.
That's even a different question too.
It is a
Now-
different
now-
question, but I
Now
think
we're
it's a more
asking different
interesting.
questions.
Now-
But I think it's a more interesting
No,
conversation.
but I don't. What I would like to say is, I'm okay with moving to a new question, but I don't like the idea of reframing it because that almost sounds as if we are retroactively being like,
No,
this is the real question.
No. But
Okay.
it's like we've been going for about 15-ish minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know how
Let's
far we
switch it
could
up.
stretch this
Yeah,
question.
let's flip it up. So
We're not regular YouTubers where we're going to stretch everything to 10 minutes, Christian.
we're the Graeyzone, baby.
I'm sorry I don't care that much about Bella Thorne
Wait.
OnlyFans.
Okay, listen. I
do.
don't care.
Bella Thorne.
OnlyFans, not what we're talking about. We're talking about cellular devices.
You know
Rauf,
where you can
That you-
get OnlyFans?
you know,
On the cellular. So I bet you.
So is
that-
OnlyFans essential in 2020?
no.
Yes.
I bet you that you can't get an OnlyFans on a regular house phone or cell phone, but you could get it on a smartphone.
Dude,
Me too.
Rauf, please explain the question. Can you
Say-
ask that question again?
Okay, so when we say reframe,
Right.
let's just say
I
the
don't
answer
care.
of is it essential? Is it
That
required?
doorway is too narrow.
That's
Yeah.
Reframe it.
Yes.
Make it bigger.
Let's
Let
ask
us
a different
expand the
question.
conversation.
Ask a different question.
I
Go
say
ahead.
this because I might cut a lot of that out. So
What I was saying is, we are now moving on to the next question as we have decided something, right?
yes,
Essentially.
Right? Essentially.
Ah,
I say this
It's a pun.
because that means I won this round.
Shut up,
Wait.
Christian. This isn't win or lose.
Did you win?
Okay, this is
I'm
not
at-
a question.
I don't think you won. I'm willing to keep going.
Oh, you're willing to keep going?
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Wait, where did you land on this fence?
I landed that
Oof.
having a
We'll just
having a
cut
phone.
earlier
is
and then
essential.
go
Oh,
to
wait,
the
we
next
agreed then.
question.
Yes, but
So-
having a smartphone is not yet essential.
So then we won.
Yes, we won. Hey. Woo!
I mean, I think we can. I think
don't
we all
feel like
We
kind
can
of-
cut this
lost.
shit out and let's go.
Is this loss?
Okay,
Yeah, this is what.
to put it concisely, I think we all agree that having a phone is not essential in the strictest sense.
Right.
But the another question that crops up is, do you need a smartphone to be accepted and to integrate well with your peers and contemporaries in 2020?
As a 20-something.
As a 20-something. We are all 20-something here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
I'm just more.
I have an interesting sidebar on this one, but I'll get to it later.
okay.
Okay.
Christian would turn off his cell phone volume.
Christian, you're unaccepted now. 'cause of your
Cell phone
smartphone.
is an active detriment.
So I think if you're in our age group, I'm willing to almost say it might be essential to be accepted. And you would be the oddity if you didn't have a cell phone.
Yes.
Or a smartphone.
Yes,
But I
you
don't
can
think
still-
anybody would reject you because that's quite the thing to reject someone on.
Now, if we were Zoomers,
Well, because if you can't get on TikTok as a Zoomer,
Your life's over.
get the fuck out of here, bro.
Yeah.
Zoom over there, motherfucker.
they're living life in the fast lane, and people without them are living in the slow lane.
The more technologically advanced our society becomes, the more people are going to want to expect you to have a smartphone. I'm going to say that because I feel like, yeah, Zoomers are definitely in a position where they have a cell phone or a smartphone more so than other generations, including ours.
I agree. And I would like to add, I think that we are at the turning point generation.
We're at a pinnacle.
We are at the edge because we remember how things were before, but we grew up with them.
I remember the first smartphones coming out
Yes.
and not having one.
And I remember
Same.
not having a cell phone. My parents always had a cell phone as long as I can remember. But I remember, and some people that's not the case if they were born in '96. There are some people that just had a household phone. My dad worked in weird. He had a pager at one point. Anyways, what I want to say is, because we are on the edge, we are not going to reject somebody that might still have like a dumb phone.
Right.
Well, let's think about this. If I am a man,
Boof is gonna show us his.
if I am a man with a Nokia phone, in the year 2020,
Wait, what Nokia?
the one that you could put a hole in a house.
Okay.
Okay.
Some Nokias are smartphones now.
No, the fucking BAM! That one. If I
lethal
show up
weapon?
to a social gathering, the lethal weapon. If I show up to a social gathering with that fucking thing, right? I pull it out. People might marvel at the nostalgia.
The ancient, the fossil you dug up. You might actually become a meme that night and
Well, you're
become
just
more
being a hipster.
accepted.
Haven't
Exactly.
you heard?
But think
Being a
about
dickhead
how many
cool.
things get planned, how much communication occurs over different apps, right? Whether it be Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, OnlyFans, Messenger, WhatsApp.
Graeyzone.com
I actually
YouTube
have
channel.
a friend. I have a friend that does not have a messenger. Refuses. Actually, I know several people that refuse to use Messenger. I mostly use Messenger, and they only text, or they use Discord. But Discord is something that they generally use from their computer and not their
Everyone's
phone.
got their specialty, especially with all the apps. Like I
Right.
even know people that are like, I will communicate strictly off of Instagram.
Okay, but
I only
that
speak through Wicker.
there's a difference between having the choice and not being able to have those things, period, because you have a dum-dum phone. So if you are that person and your friends are all gathering or they're planning to gather at so-and-so place at so-and-so time, people might be like, well, we gotta fucking... Someone has to jump through the extra hoop of getting in touch with this motherfucker with the dum-dum phone because
'Cause I
they
can't
are
just
too
stick it in my
fucking
group
good
chat.
to own a smartphone.
So what you're saying is that it's that you can't text this person?
No,
just-
you can, but
basically
someone
what
has
he's
to...
saying is,
He
if
says
I can put
it's
everybody,
so hard.
shut the fuck up.
But I'm already doing that. It was my point earlier.
Wait,
No,
hold on.
but-
let's get to
Let
Rob's
Rob,
point.
let Rob say it.
What he's saying is, if I have a group chat on Facebook with
Yeah.
18 people in it,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And I send an evite out on Facebook.
Yes.
But you, being a stubborn asshole, don't have Facebook.
I check my computer.
No, I'm just saying,
You
just shut up.
hypothetically.
Stop making up. You're talking about too many instances. I'm just giving Boof's example. You don't have a smartphone, and you're a million miles away from your computer. Now we have to go through the extra step, and I'm not saying you're not worth it, to send you a text. So there's a chance that you get left out because you don't get the original invite, and nobody goes through the extra hoop to send you a text.
It's
That's
not.
all Boof is saying.
Yeah, it's not that going through that hoop is especially difficult.
It's not hard. It's literally typing in the number and typing out the
Yeah,
words.
it's not that it's
You
hard.
just copy and paste it. 'cause
It's
you have a
just more
smartphone.
work.
It's
to
not
do.
that it's hard, but a lot of people
Forget.
take the path of they forget. They like to take the path of least resistance, and
Yeah,
they're like,
they'll go, oh, I forgot Christian doesn't have Facebook.
Oh,
You're at the
no.
party. You're at the party, and everyone's like, where's Christian? Oh shit, he's not in the Facebook group chat.
Well,
I
if Christian
have
were
heard
at
that
the party,
many
we would just
times.
have to wait a little longer.
No,
you're gonna have to wait for Christian regardless.
I have heard this many times about, oh, this person, we forgot to invite this person. But what I will say is that every time that has happened, that person still has a smartphone. It's just that they will either refuse to check something or refuse to use a certain type of app that we use, meaning that
Having
it was
the phone
very
is-
easily, you could just have a regular cell phone and be in the same boat.
Right,
That's
but
what
I'm
he's saying.
saying there's a difference between having a cell phone and being stubborn and having a dumb phone and literally not having that capability.
Right.
I actually think, though, that you're more likely to remember somebody who has a dumb phone because you're like, oh, yeah, this person doesn't have this.
Well, I was gonna say one of my friends actually for the longest time had a dumb phone, right? And he wasn't a dumb, but like he just didn't want to move yet to the smartphone because he didn't see that as a necessity in his life. And so hitting him up was just, oh, I get a message, so I'm gonna agree with you on that.
Because if somebody has a smartphone and you message them on an app that they don't use, but let's say they just have an account or whatever,
Right.
it's much more likely that they're going to miss that than
Yes.
if you're like, oh, we got to remember this guy.
If you were to message me on Discord, I would not get it.
I'm so glad you're both magnanimous people, but I could tell you
I
There's-
just forget the person.
there's a lot of people who are just going to be like, they're going to send out their big invites through whatever app, their preferred app. People are going to be like, yes. And everyone's like Rob said, they're going to get together and going to be like, where's this motherfucker? Oh shit, none of us fucking remembered.
Does that just boil down to user error then?
Yes, but we're talking about social interact. We are
Literally
talking about social
getting left
interactions.
out because you don't have a smartphone. That's the conversation,
Right,
right?
no, I get it.
Okay, you got left out because you don't have a smartphone.
Right.
There you go.
It happens.
Everything's user error.
It happens. That's true.
Is it user error for not having a smartphone?
No.
It kind of is.
Now, I will take both of your points that yes, it's simply a matter of giving more of a shit, right?
Yeah, it's not hard to do. It's just you could.
But like, I still feel a lot of people tend to gravitate towards the path of least resistance.
Well, the wave is
And,
moving towards
you know,
the smartphone. Era.
Even with the path of least resistance, though, the issue becomes if I have a messenger group, right, and I say, and it's big, let's say it's 20 people, and I say, hey guys, I'm having a bonfire. Nobody responds because everybody's like, well, okay, who's this directed at? Even though it's directed at everybody. Which forces me to go and individually message people anyways, so it really isn't that big of a deal for me.
That's you specifically, and that's your group of friends' fault for
Yes,
being.
but on the other hand,
Which we are part of.
these other examples are those people specifically. So the path of least resistance doesn't always work, and that's what I'm saying.
Well, okay. Why don't next time you have a bonfire, you just send a message, and if people don't show up, then they don't show up. That's my own
I
fault.
hate that. No, and you know what? But it's also my fault because I believe that if I understand that this is going to happen, then I am at fault for not going out and taking the extra step.
See, whenever I send a group message, I just suspect everybody who read it, they read receipts, everyone who read it is either going or not going, and they've made up their mind. I prefer people to reply, right? Everybody prefers someone to reply. But if they don't reply, then we'll just see when people show up.
It's
So
a
send me out
philosophy, and I have a different philosophy on that because of experiences with everybody I know where I will need to individually message people because they oftentimes it will say read, but that doesn't actually mean that they actually read it.
Well, then they're shitty people.
Yes, but there's also, we mentioned before that nowadays there are so many budget versions of smartphones
You should be able
that there's gonna start to be an element. Let's say you are the most magnanimous person ever, and you're like, it is my solemn duty to make sure this motherfucker with the cracked out Nokia phone gets all our messages. There will eventually be a point where you at least slightly resent them for not being like, set aside $150, get a phone that everyone fucking else has, or at least has the apps that everyone else is using. You're gonna be like, what is this
I agree
motherfucker
with this.
doing?
As I said about the person that doesn't use Facebook, sometimes I find it annoying that I have to individually interact because it is not as easy to do, but I still do it, and that means I don't think it's as worrisome as we're making it out to be.
So I want to make a wild theory about the future and then make a hypothesis, or not a hypothesis, a hypothetical. So in the future, this is my idea of what's going to happen. Everyone's going to have brain phones, right? Everyone's going to have an implant that allows them to communicate with their social medias and all that through their eyes, whatever, all right? Wild theory, I know, but it could happen.
Ghost in the Shell brain casings.
Ghost in the Shell brain casings, all right. But then there's going to be that one dude who still has a smartphone, all right, and it's going to be the same exact conversation. Now, if we're messaging each other through our brainwaves and whatever, and having group calls and sending out invitations
so
immediately,
you're standing in a room and
Yeah.
everybody is psychically communicating essentially.
and we look really weird just standing still.
But then the one guy there, as the group chat goes up, he gets a phone call and everybody looks because they're silently standing there, and then he's like, "Go talk on the phone."
Yeah,
like
yeah. That's gonna be weird then too, right? But my point with that, whole thing is that even when society moves forward, they're still going to kind of pull back. And, you know, what do they call it with video
Stragglers?
games?
Oh,
No. With video games where they backplay. You know,
Backwards compatibility.
backwards compatibility. There will always be a net that backwards compatibility, the people that do not have the same technologies today.
You have to accommodate for the stragglers.
Everything's a slow transition.
It is. And so
Yes.
while I can still, call up my friend who doesn't have Facebook or Discord or Instagram, whatever, I can also communicate with those other people too. And then in the future, when we have brain phones, alright, people with smartphones will still be able to contact these other people with those brain phones too.
You know, I'm usually not a proponent of Apple, but Apple has their own messenger app that is different than a text, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's called iMessage.
iMessage.
Superior to text message.
Okay, well.
I want to say that I'm not a proponent of Apple, but in this capacity, I am, because I have found it more and more frequently that there needs to be a new messenger / iMessage sort of application which is standardized
For all
amongst
phones?
everybody.
Well, see, you can't have that because there's no competition.
Because, well, text messaging.
Yeah.
But
It's literally iMessage is just Facebook Messenger, but off your regular cell phone.
I have found increasingly that people aren't using the same apps anymore as they have already left them, such as Facebook. People stop using Messenger because they're like, well, I use this other thing.
Right.
And so it's very hard to get in contact with people because everything is so fragmented.
Yeah. And the benefit, the reason a lot of people don't use regular text messaging is because if you're in a house like this one, down here you might not be able to send a text
With no
because there's
reception.
no service, but you have Wi-Fi, therefore you can send a message through Messenger.
And what's the most used messaging app?
And what iMessage lets you do is send a text. Thank you for letting me finish my point.
Sorry.
Lets you send a text with Wi-Fi. That's all it is. iMessage is Wi-Fi texting mixed into regular texting. Therefore, I can always send a text.
But also, these things have a better system.
And it's prettier, and you can do other shit in it. I'm just saying, the main reason a lot of people with iPhone will be using iMessage instead of Facebook Messenger is because it's the same thing, but it's already baked into your phone, and you don't need a Facebook account.
Exactly, and that's what
Yeah.
I'm getting at. Is like,
Yeah.
I
No,
actually
no,
think
I'm-
that's a good thing.
I'm just clarifying for
Okay,
people
thank
who
you.
don't have iPhone and like what the big benefit
Well,
of it is.
what's the most common messaging app today? WhatsApp.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Internationally,
What is
WhatsApp
it?
is used.
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp.
That's fair. Yeah.
Because WhatsApp, you
There
can
might
use
be
your-
competition.
There might be, because listen, based on, I think within the last couple of years, I had seen that WhatsApp was the most used, most downloaded app, even. Just because, people in other parts of the world who are separated from their families need to contact, people that are, thousands of miles away. And what better way to do that other than through internet service, right? Because the internet is everywhere and also nowhere. But it doesn't require you to pay an extra 50 cents a text, whatever, to message someone internationally. I can talk to someone from the other side of the world through Facebook Messenger or, with WhatsApp, which is specifically designed for that.
You know what I actually just realized, and Robert, you're probably the best person to talk about this, is why has there almost seemingly been a reduction in the amount of global cellular phones or satellite phones?
Give me 1 second. So it's WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and then WeChat.
Okay.
And WeChat is Chinese,
Chinese, I was going to say.
like Facebook.
And
essentially.
to be fair, the most used app in the US is Facebook Messenger.
Yep.
Line is
Sorry.
the most used in Japan. Line was the when I said that there might be competition. Line was the one that I was.
I
thinking
thought
of.
WeChat was bigger just because of the population of China and the amount of WeChat is like seriously, it's like Facebook of China.
And China is
Korea
close off.
and Japan use it as well, but like seriously, China WeChat.
Right.
So there seems to be like a reduction in because I remember for a period there was a push towards like satellite phones, a while ago. But I mean, we constantly have issues with, like out here, you have issues with like getting a cell tower and things like that.
Yeah.
And you can't send a text through it, but you could send a text through like a satellite phone.
I can answer that because you can send a text through the internet now, right? And if you have internet connection, it's just as good as.
It's probably cost.
Cost?
It's probably cost and availability.
You would think that would get less costly though.
Like, well, I'm gonna go with cost and availability of options. Like, okay, can I get an iPhone satellite phone? Probably not.
Probably not.
Therefore, like,
because they have bigger antennas and things
yeah,
like that.
there goes half your thing. Can I get a Samsung Note 10 satellite phone? No. Oh man, I don't want this big, fat, ugly phone. You know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess it's that and then cost.
Okay. Because those were being pushed like maybe 15 years ago
we-
as like you could literally go anywhere.
My family actually had satellite phones because we have property at Lake Holbert, which is like 5 hours north of here.
Right.
No service, period. There is now. But back when we would go, no service at all. You wouldn't have even seen a cell phone tower for like an hour getting there.
Yeah.
And so we all had satellite phones because when you're up there, it's dangerous. Like grizzly bears, it's like the wild. But you need to be able to communicate with people. So my grandpa everyone had satellite phones, especially when we were up there.
Right.
And walkie talkies.
Well, walkie talkies.
Another relic.
walkie talkies.
We had those satellite phones that had walkie talkies built into them, Motorola.
Actually, I want to say though that walkie-talkies.
Those are sweet, by the way.
Walkie-talkies do have their own function that these phones generally don't, because these phones still need like internet
Yeah.
to like what is it? Is it Vox or Velo or
Oh, it was Velo, I think.
Velo? There was a like walkie-talkie app, but you still needed to have 3G.
Yeah, you still need to be online for it. Yeah.
But walkie-talkies communicate like point to point.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's like a
No,
thing
well-
that they have not really implemented yet.
Our job demonstrates walkie-talkies essential ness, because we'll be in a lot of places where there's no service and you need to be able to talk to people.
But a walkie-talkie could cut through those walls super easy.
Yeah, we have them.
No,
we
I
just don't
mean,
have
it depends
them.
on how many walls and what they're made out of. But yes,
but,
absolutely.
but more than a cell phone.
More than a cell phone with no
Right,
service.
absolutely. Bro?
I think we might be a little off topic to the main point of this podcast.
That's
sure we are.
totally fine. Ultimately, though,
Let's reel everything back in.
yeah. So ultimately, we've decided that cell phones are they're required but not essential. People won't necessarily get outcasted, but as society moves on, it'll accommodate, and people will fall in line with
Yeah,
that.
so I think when we were talking about a guy whose friends all have smartphones, they don't, it's not necessarily that they're fully ostracized.
No.
But you gotta admit, you gotta jump through a couple of extra hoops for
Right.
that guy.
And that just goes down to whether you give a shit or not.
And that's fair.
That's fair. That's very fair.
But let's take that a step further.
People
let's,
younger than us.
Wait,
No.
Okay, let's
No, Booth
continue.
has a style. Let's go.
If we, let's say that this person did get to the party, this hypothetical party.
Yes.
The hoops were jumped through. They're there. Everyone at that party is on their smartphone, showing each other different. We don't have Vines, TikTok,
Dank memes.
memes, all of these things.
Well,
And what is Nokia McGee doing?
He's
in the
chatting
background.
up
he's got the
people.
wrong friends.
Yeah, he is the
Getting
wrong
laid.
friends.
He's getting laid.
No.
Yes, because he's actually if he's not a social wallflower, he's actually like engaging people in conversation
But
instead of
I get where you're going at.
Yeah.
Where he will be left out of
those
certain
other things.
references.
Right. Yes.
So if we get together, all of our friends always talk about memes and shit like that. Like, oh, did you see the Ben Shapiro wet ass pussy thing? Like Eric Licky.
Wet ass P word.
But like Eric will bring that up just like randomly, right? And if you don't have a smartphone or you're not active on YouTube or you don't know the meme, and then you're left out. well, maybe 3 or 4 people are laughing about it, and 1 or 2 aren't.
Yeah, we're saying that this person could just easily engage, but think about it's not just everyone sitting around like a bunch of dumbasses showing each other their phones, but I mean,
They're
how
just
many
talking about the culture, like
yeah, how many fractal conversations occur
lot.
based on these things?
lot.
Cellular devices and smartphones are part of today's culture. So yes, it makes sense that they're going to be hot topics.
Yes.
But ultimately, if any one of us were to find ourselves at a party like that, A, I don't think we would, but B, we'd also, communicate with our inherent communication device.
Now, I've been to parties like that before, but generally that means that the party isn't going so well because everybody's just on their phone.
Booth isn't talking about being on your phone specifically.
No, that's
but
not-
talking
yes.
about
Yes.
phone-based content.
Let
Which
me-
yes, you
yeah.
can get on a computer, Christian, but it's not as convenient as.
But we're talking about social media then.
Yes.
Well, let me
Or just
give you an
references.
example, a little adjacent, but to understand like the social implications. I don't drink. I've talked to with
don't
Silas
drink.
about this in the past.
I don't work.
I don't.
That.
I don't drink. And how many times do I go to parties? All of the time, where I walk into a room with 5 or 6 other people, right? And all they're fucking talking about is, what do they drink? Where do they drink it? What fucking trouble have they gotten into as they drink? What other things do they drink? And I'm sitting there like, oh fucking god!
It's one of those parties. Oh, I should just leave now.
So, and
While
you
we're
can
getting
sort
drunk.
of sit, and now can I try to maneuver the conversation another way?
And
yes.
you do very well.
But sometimes I can't. It's sometimes just they're like, oh god, do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
could very much be in like, why are they talking about wet ass P words? I don't understand what the fuck they're on about.
We've never had one, right? No.
Only dry P words. You see what I'm getting at though?
No, I
Of
was
course.
agreeing with you. Yeah,
Of
yeah.
course. Well, ultimately, though, I think that, society will move forward without a hitch. And, yeah, if you're left behind, just get a $50 smartphone.
But see, that's the sentiment we have. We just fucking get it.
Just get it.
That's
So-
where like that kind of frustration comes from.
I'm time dating this as what? September 7th, 2020. The reason being is because we think the society is going to move forward in a straight line from here out, but they're going to throw us a curveball, and it's going to be like we're using
2020, listen.
some like biometric clock thing as our communication device.
It's 2020. It's been a shit show ever since the very beginning. We understand that kinks happen. Alright.
It all started in 2016.
With that fucking gorilla. Why did they have to shoot it?
All right, we're
But
reeling it in.
but at the core of the question, in
Rip.
your people,
Dicks out.
I feel that most people, unless they are like the fucking hyper materialists, you're not gonna get explicitly ostracized for not having a cell phone. You're not gonna never be invited to things. But there will always be, I feel, there's always gonna be that bit of disconnect
Yes.
between you and the rest of your peer group.
So I've often seen this ad for a product, and it's basically it's an RFID chip, sticks to the back of your phone. We want to change contact information. You somehow also have this product that nobody fucking ever owned.
Right.
We tap phones, and then he gets my contact info. Right? It's like a thing like that, and it always happens to be a guy at a bar talking to a girl. He taps the back of her phone. Now they got contact information. The real question comes in: ignore that product. What happens when you're trying to talk to someone at a bar and you're trying to date? You're trying to swoon a woman or swoon a man, depending on how you roll and who you are.
Add me on Facebook.
And and they try to give you their information, maybe your cell phone number, maybe they pull you up on Facebook, and you don't have the smartphone to pull them up on Facebook. They're like, look me up on Instagram, add my Instagram, we can DM, and you pull out your Nokia brick. Where do you go from there?
You go back home. You go home.
This issue I have had this issue myself because I didn't have an Instagram that I used for a very long time.
I still don't, by the way.
But you pull out your Nokia brick.
Yes.
Do you think you're still getting that person's information?
In fact, not only that, like
Get that
let's
person's WAP.
let's pare that down even further a little bit. Is okay, we say that you don't get explicitly ostracized by your actual friends, right?
Yeah.
But if you're trying to date, you're at a trendy bar, you got attractive people all around you, you pull out your fucking weapon of destruction. They look at it, and what's going on?
They look at it in awe.
Some people
and
might
say,
be like, whoa. Yeah, there are going to be people who say, oh, whoa.
There'll be a period of time where it will be like,
well,
WTF, and then they'll be like, after that time has passed, they'll be like, whoa, you have an old phone. Wow,
But
you must be
They say
cool.
you have one of the 4 arms of Shiva, the Destroyer.
But until we get to that point, in Rob's example, you pull out this fucking ugly ass thing. What is going through that woman's head? It could be,
By a loser.
what is this poor ass, dumbass motherfucker pulling his brick out at me for? Immediately dry ass P word.
And I'm not like
They're like, you should keep that in your pants. You
I'm
shouldn't
not-
whip it out here.
implicating that like people like women at bars are materialistic or men at bars are materialistic.
Right.
I'm just saying that's a big culture shock. Like if a girl pulled out, well, I guess I just give people my number. I don't really like try to give people Instagram or anything. But if a girl pulled out a Nokia brick and typed my number in, I would just be like, whoa, I have to text you regularly? I use Facebook Messenger for everything. I can't Snapchat you my dick at 4 in the morning. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's a joke. That's a joke.
So what I am
Add me
going
on Snapchat.
what I'm going to say is that I agree because when we go to cons, when I used to try to like flirt with people, I would get them added on Facebook. Now, how often did that work? I got them on Facebook, but nothing else ever went any further than that. But
That's how it usually is.
And we probably already sound like boomers talking about Facebook,
Oh,
honestly.
Yeah, really.
But at least at the places that the 3 of us visit more frequently, well, me and Rob, and then you're new, and then you're old. But
Christian pointed at me and said I was old, and Rauf saying he was new.
I was hoping the audience would just like leave that.
Had to clarify.
But those type of people, you do want to have Instagram, Facebook,
Yeah.
these things, because they're all nerds and they're all electronic users.
So if you're trying to mate, then you want the newest thing so that you can have any sort of means of contact with that person.
Because
Just in case.
if you're really trying to go for it, right?
Right.
You have your smartphone, but then you also have your Nokia Shiva Destroyer. So then you can have the impressive thing, right?
Right.
And pull it out and potentially use it as a self-defense weapon. And then you also have your smartphone for
mates.
You gauge what they're going to be impressed
What is
by.
it? One for the money, the other for the plug, or some shit?
Basically,
I got 2 phones.
if you're in your standard trendy bar in Detroit, you probably want the smartphone. But if you're in some den of fucking, how should I put this?
Thievery.
No, like you're in some place where they really value the retro kitschy factor. Maybe the fucking brick.
I'm just.
A goth club.
This is what I think.
You're like, whoa.
If somebody pulls out a Nokia on me, I think that it's a burner, and I better walk away before I end up in a river.
If somebody pulls out a Nokia on me, I am like a moth to the flame, drawn in. Why do they have this?
Christian's
What
body
is
is found floating down the
what is
river.
what is their story? What has possessed this man or a woman that they still keep a Nokia?
It's a burner, bro. They're gonna have it for another week.
Well,
That's the device they kill you with.
Yeah, you find like a giant dent in Christian's head.
But the phone still works perfectly
Yes.
fine.
That's the important part.
what an interesting conversation. We started with our phones' necessity and ended with, well, Nokia's can be used.
Nokia, the perfect murder tool.
I want to make one last comment, and
Okay.
that is, like, this is my concluding statement that
Okay.
while we don't see phones as 100% essential, what this conversation brought to light is that smartphones are essential for our age group and especially for dating.
Yeah.
And I think that actually is maybe why you and I might have agreed a little bit more on some
Christian
things.
and myself, Silas.
Yes, Silas and I,
Because we're both dating. We
we're
don't
both
need
dating somebody, and we're not thinking about like, oh, I gotta get on, I gotta get on
Dating each other.
social media. I gotta get on, OkCupid or what? Tinder.
I
Right?
think they call it,
and
right?
now that links to another episode that never aired, I believe.
Oh, yes.
But
We're going to reshoot that episode.
Oh, we
We
are
are.
going to reshoot that.
We, as in me and Boof, not you two.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
Me,
not
Boof,
gonna
and a guest.
I don't need to be there.
with that in mind, I just think it's really interesting that our needs and our perception of it went in that direction of, like, that was the example of if you're trending in your bar and you're trying to, like, flirt with somebody or get somebody's contact info, that's something that 20-somethings is definitely on their mind.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Well, you gave your concluding statements. Does anyone else have any concluding statements?
I
Can I
do.
self-plug for my concluding statement?
Yes.
Rob, we'll start with your self-plug first. Move to Rauf.
So I came up with a theory on how to pick your next smartphone. And I've been working on the script and recording it. So if you want to hear that, it'll be on my YouTube channel. Linked somewhere maybe.
We'll figure that one out.
Yeah.
See the thing that we're going to reference.
Up in about a week or 2 weeks.
Or whatever. We'll see.
We'll see.
Rauf, please.
So, okay. Are smartphones essential? There are too many examples of people who don't have them that operate mostly fine that you have to say they're not essential. Do you need them to be fully accepted by your peers?
No.
Perhaps not.
But it helps.
It helps immensely,
Right.
as we said.
Absolutely.
Or
Or
could all be anarcho-primitivists. Run out into the fucking woods.
You're making the slippery slope neo-Luddite thing.
We gotta all go join Silas and Rob's turkeys in the wild. And amazing, like, we say we need these things. I promise you, back pain, gone.
yes.
Arthritis, gone.
Well,
Permanent, this thumb, gone.
Hey,
This
all I'm
dumb.
saying is that only Rob and you are the only two people here that have gone to U of M, meaning that you are the only two people likely to go out and live in the cabinet and start mailing bombs to people.
that's
Ooh.
true. Ooh.
That's the real way.
We did it, America!
We did it. Ladies and gentlemen, we got it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got one.
And when I say that, I mean because of the Unabomber, not anything else that I realized
Right.
I could have been implying. but I
No,
didn't.
that was a Unibomb reference and very well
On the
done.
Unibomb reference,
Yes.
I think we dropped the bomb of this episode's over.
Yes. Well, this has been the Graeyzone again. My name is Silas.
My name is Raouf.
My name's Christian.
My name's Rob.
And like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Please. If you're one of our diehard loyal fans, let us know. If not, then let us know why we suck. But this has been the Graeyzone. Until next time.